Welcome everybody. Today I want to talk to you about population growth in Australia. Not the most exciting of topics, but it is when you consider that price growth in real estate is determined by supply and demand. One of the biggest boosts of demand is people. It's population growth. I mean, the thing about real estate is it isn't just an investment. It is a house. It is a home. People need to live in it. And the more people that come into our country, the more people that are born than are dying. That means our population increases. And that's a big determinant of how much demand is going to be, how much real estate is in demand. Now, we've spoken in previous episodes about the lack of supply in Australia. And now we have some new data about what's happening with our population. This is a report from the SBS News, and the headline is Australia is experiencing its fastest population growth since 2008. Our total population grew by 1.9%, or 496,800 people in the 12 months to 31st of December 2022, and now our population has reached 26.3 million. The biggest driver of our population growth was overseas migration. And you can see here that there were 600 and about 20,000 overseas migration arrivals and 232,000 people left. So the net boost was 387,000 people. When you look at our natural births and deaths, the natural increase is incremental and actually declining, and this is pretty typical of developing or developed nations. It basically, normally developed nations like first world nations, when you have an increase in education, typically people have less babies, and this is seen all over the globe. Japan is the worst example, the best example of this, where they've got a huge aging population and their population is actually decreasing. So we're pretty lucky here in Australia that we actually have a lot of migrants coming into our country. So who are the big winners and who are the big losers? Which states and territories receive the most population? I'm going to change web pages to informed decisions, or ID. I talk about ID all over my book. It's one of the best sites for getting good census data, and they have census experts on there that talk about populations, what's actually happening. So in this article, what they say is that this growth isn't the largest increase we've ever had. In fact, the largest increase in population recorded. This is the largest increase in the population ever recorded, so the most amount of people that we've ever seen. But percentage-wise, it's not the biggest. We had higher growth rates in 2009, and we had much higher growth rates after World War II and the gold rush days. Of course, we were operating off a much smaller base. Now, the reason why I'm actually talking about all of this for you property investors is I'm paying attention to the demand. I want you to pay attention to where all these people are going, because that's going to help you determine what type of property you're going to buy, especially if you're looking for stuff that is price sensitive. Now, obviously, population growth doesn't really impact the premium parts of the market. When you go into Bondi, the eastern suburbs, when you go into the premium suburbs of Western Australia or Melbourne, Toorak, whatever, population doesn't really change that much because there's no new property going there. But in the more affordable suburbs, city fringes, apartment places where there's going to be new apartment developments being built, on the fringes of cities where there's going to be new townhouses and housing developments, this is where it's most relevant. And if you can start to track where the population growth is going to go, or where the demand for real estate is going to go, that's where you can reliably start tracking price growth in real estate. Now, I'm looking at a graph here, and it says migration by Australian states and territories. The big winners here for net overseas migration is New South Wales with 134,000 people. Then after that, you've got Victoria at 120,000 people. Behind that, you have Queensland at about 58,000. Then you have Western Australia at 37,000, and then South Australia at 23,000. So you can see here the two big winners are Sydney and Melbourne. And you can see that's why I've been talking about Melbourne so often, why I like it as a state, as a city, because Victoria receives a huge amount of people, twice the amount of people that Queensland does. And if we then have a look at some of the other data, interstate migration, that's really interesting as well. 31,000 people actually left New South Wales, 10,000 people left Victoria, and you're saying, where did all those people go? Queensland received 35,000 people, and then Western Australia received 10,000 people. So as a percentage increase, surprisingly, Western Australia had the largest population growth out of any of the states. And then behind that, you had Queensland. And then again, just behind that, you had Victoria. Queensland grew by 2.22. Western Australia grew by 2.27%. And then Victoria by 2.1%. So you can see why I am such a bull when it comes to Victoria. It is growing at an astronomical rate, and it is effectively a world-class city. And the prices of real estate there are almost cheaper than anywhere else in Australia, except for some of the really, really small states. So that is all that I wanted to talk about here. Population growth is absolutely booming. We've got heaps and heaps of people coming into the country, hundreds of thousands of people. We're now going into a time where there is low levels of available listings. But basically, listings are the amount of properties that are available for sale. They are 25% below the five-year averages. And then also the approval ratings are really low. In the next episodes, I will jump into the stock, and then I'll jump into some of the other factors. So stay tuned. Happy investing, happy house hunting. And if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, have a good week. Catch you later.